And last class we have seen how to install the Selenium IDE, and we know that it's a plugin for the Firefox, and we also recorded a sample test case. Let's see Selenium IDE features one by one, and we'll be working on all those stuff. So we know there are couple of features from Selenium IDE. One is record, play the script, and save a script, view the source, export a test case, creating test suite, exporting a test suite, changing the format, view logs, change default options. So let's work on all these features one by one. So let me record a script now. So you know that as and when you open a Selenium IDE, you can able to see the Selenium IDE will be in a recording mode. Let's open one website. Name it as mortgagecalculator.org and perform some steps here. Just click on calculate button. So whatever the step we performed on the Firefox browser, everything recorded here. First, let's save this particular script. For saving it, do Control S, or you can also save it by going to File and selecting as Save Test Case. Let's name it as ID. Let's create a new folder and name it as ID. So go inside this IDE and create another folder, test cases. So inside this, we can save it MGC01. Okay, now this test case is saved. So let's run this script. For running the script, you can click on this run button. So this is called play current test case. Just click on it to see executing it. You can see all the elements are entered here, all the values are entered here. And the script was executed very quick, right? If you want to reduce the speed of execution, you can able to do by moving this slider. So when you say it is fast, and moving towards slow, the script will become very slow in execution. Let's execute now. And you can also see that what are the steps are executed, and all those steps will be available, all those steps will be mentioned in the logs. You can see that executing open, executing click, and executing type. Okay, not only that, if any error comes, it will also give you proper information why that error came into picture. Okay, so let's see. So Let's change the script. For example, click and wait, cal something. Let's modify it. Okay, and save it and rerun once again. Okay, and there you can see there is a failure one. In that case, let's go to log and see what was the error. Scroll down and you can see that element name cal triple two not found. Okay, so it's trying to click on an element whose name is cal triple two, and that is not found because the actual element which is exist in the web page is cal. Okay, with the name of cal, and you change that name to something else, and that's the reason it is unable to find that element, and it also given a information to you this element is not found. Okay, so that's how when some error comes into IDE, you have to look into the logs and look for the error. And you can also filter these logs. For example, you can also keep error so that you can able to see only error, and you can able to make it as one. Okay, there are no one messages, and you can able to make info, and you can see all the info messages. You can make it as debug. So now you can see all the debug messages, right? So you just need to understand one thing about the logs and its priority. So logs are generally debug, info, and warn and error. Error is the top priority, we can say. Okay, and debug is the least priority, we can say. When you select the debug, you can able to see debug messages and info messages and warn messages and also error messages. Okay, but when you select the info, you can see from the info you can able to see info, warn, and error. When you select the warn, you can able to see warn messages and error messages, and when you select the error, you can able to see only error messages. Okay, so if you want, you can just look into this. I selected debug. Now you can able to see all debug, info, warn, error. You can see debug, and then and you can see info messages, and you can also see error messages. Okay, and if you can select info, you can see only info and warn messages, info, warn, and also error messages. As there are no warn messages, you can able to see only info and error messages. Let's select error, and you can see only error messages. So these are called the types of logs, and whose priority. Okay, so why do we require these many logs? Debug, info, warn, error. Okay, and if you can see that it's only error. Okay, a limited information is given to the user, and if you switch to info, he got more information. So where exactly this element cal triple two not found? Okay, so after executing id pmi, and then this is where this got failed. And if you want more and more information, go to debug. So it has lots more other information. So it depends on if you can able to understand the error message directly, You can just look into error messages. Otherwise, let's go to the info to see more information from the IDE. And even you are unable to even you are unable to understand the issue, let's go to debug to understand more and more where exactly the issue is came into picture. Okay, so it also gives more and more other information. So it's all about finding the issue. Okay, when some issue is got, so where exactly the issue has occurred and what is the reason for that issue. Okay, so for finding out all those information, these logs will be very much useful for you. That's one thing. Now we have automated one test case in the mortgage calculator. So this mortgage calculator is a web application which is used to, for the users, which is used to find out the loan amount. Okay, for a loan amount, what is the EMI and what is the monthly EMI. Okay, what is the total principal and what is the total outstanding amount, what is the total, altogether principal and interest, how much he is paying at the end of the, loan. It gives the complete information about a loan. Okay, if you take this much loan, how much you are going to pay monthly EMI and how much you are going to pay total, principal and total interest, and altogether principal and interest, how much you are going to pay at the end of the loan. It's going to give each and every information to you. Okay, so that it will be very helpful before you take a loan. Okay, and this is available in the dollars. Okay, so why do we learn automation? It's all about automating a application, right? It's all about automating a web application. When you go for a company, so that company will be having some application that could be a, application like e-commerce such as Amazon.com, or application like, booking movie tickets. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, so when you go for a company, you require to automate an application. Okay, so right now we just taken this mortgage calculator application and we are trying to automate some of the scenarios from this application. Yes, and let's, so right now we automated one test case, and before going further automating more and more test cases, let's understand about, web application concept first of all. So please note down, in every application, you take any web application, whatever you see on a web application, whatever you see on a web application, everything we call it as a web element. So this text field is a web element, and this image is a web element, and this label or text is a web element, and this button is a web element, link is a web element. Okay, whatever you see on a web page is a web element. The label, text field, header tags, image, links, checkbox, radio button, select. Okay, so everything you see, tabs, buttons, everything you see on a web page, we consider as web element. So this is the automation basic principles. Some of the examples for web elements are, what are those? One is checkbox, text field, button, image, links, and select box, radio button. Okay, label, and also header tags. Anything you see on a web page is considered as a web element, remember. And every web element has associated with a tag. Okay, It's nothing but if you want to display a text field here, the corresponding code should be written. The corresponding code should be written. Okay, so web pages are designed by using the HTML language. Web pages are designed using the HTML language. Okay, and in the HTML language you will be writing the code in a manner of tags, and the tags will be converted like this: text field, button, labels, all those stuff. For example, I can show you one sample HTML coding. You need to have a very basic knowledge on HTML, so I request you to go through some HTML tutorials outside and just understand. As I said, you require only very basic knowledge. Sample.html. It's a HTML. We are going to do HTML coding, so name it as with the extension .html. Now let's open this one in a Edit Plus or Notepad Plus Plus. So let's see. So I have started a HTML and I also closed the HTML tag. Okay. So here everything like tags. Okay, here everything like a tag. So every tag you open, you should close the corresponding tag. And so in the body, I'm going to write a label. Well, username, label. Okay, and after that, make a input tag type equal to. So I'm going to display text field. Let's see now. Let's execute this sample.txt. And so HTML pages can be opened in browsers. HTML pages can be opened on browsers. Can you see here? So I define a label. It is displayed like this, and I define a input type equal to text, which is displayed as text field. Okay. Let me write one more thing. Input type equal to button. Okay. So let's refresh the page. You can see button here. So let's bring it down. For that, you have to use a break tag. Let's view now. So what we are doing is we just understanding the web pages and how web pages are coded, because ultimately using the Selenium we are going to automate web applications. Okay, it's nothing but some website which are defined or designed by web pages, right? So for that reason we just understanding, for defining web pages we should know HTML language to code it, and we just understanding the basics of HTML language.
Are we supposed to download this application?
Not required. That's by default. Every OS supports it. Every browser supports it.
Application?
No, you don't require to download anything.
I understand. So where do I find this on my computer?
You just open a notepad and type all these things and save it as a sample some .html. Okay, and open it on a browser. Every browser supports HTML code.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And you see here, I define value as login and just refresh it. Okay, and not sufficient. You have to give text equal to login button. Let's see. I'm trying to display a text on a button. Okay, can you see here? So this text is not required, I guess. Okay, so this is how you have to write a HTML code, and all your code should be placed in a body tag. And to display label you have to write like this, and to display text field you have to write like this, and to display a button you have to do like this. Okay, so what I'm going to say is that for every web element you see username, it's a web element. For that there is a corresponding tag. You see there is a text field. For that there is a corresponding input tag, right? Okay, and you see a login button. There is a button, and for that web element you see a corresponding web you see a corresponding tag. Okay, and one more thing you need to understand is that each tag has a tag name. Okay, so if we take a label tag, the tag is label. If we take a input, if we take this tag is having a tag name as input, and each tag can have certain attributes. Can have, it may or may not have. Okay, remember. So if we take this tag, it is having certain attributes. One is type and value. This type and value are called as attribute names. Attribute names. And for each attribute you should give some value. You should give some value, either at least a empty value you have to give. If you define it, you have to keep them in some double quotes. Okay, and for the attribute name type, the value is button. For the attribute name value, the actual value is login. Okay, what we said. So web pages are designed using the HTML language. Okay, and every web element has associated with a tag. And each tag may or may not have attributes, and every attribute should have corresponding value. Okay, for example, take this one. I'll take your questions, just give me 2 minutes. Here, input is a tag name, type and value are the attributes, and the value of type is button. The value of here, the value is the value of value attribute. It is login. Okay, in the same way you can do multiple other things. If you want to display a checkbox, input type equal to, I'm not sure, checkbox. Let's try it. Okay, you can see a checkbox here, right? So if you want to display some web element here, you have to write some corresponding tag here. Okay, remember that. Okay, now let's go back to, you have to go through some of the HTML tutorials. Okay, so these are the basic HTML tutorial. Let's say whatever you write, and finally you have to save it in a .html format, and every tag you open you should be closing it, and all your tags should be placed under the body to see them on a web page. Remember that. So that's one thing. And for coding select box, for coding radio button, okay, you can just go through some of them tutorials which are available. If you don't go through also, that's fine. This is what you need to understand for the Selenium. So this is more than enough for the Selenium. Okay. So as using Selenium we are going to automate the web application, so we should have little bit knowledge on what is a web page and how these web pages are created. Okay. And by the way, web pages are created by HTML language, and HTML language will be looks like this with it contains all the tags, different kinds of tags. Okay.
Can I make Facebook now?
Yeah, you can do that.
I can make Facebook.
Pardon?
Can I make Facebook now?
Yeah, you can do that.
Excuse me, where are the banners? So do we use the banner and the photo? That's still we still use HTML for that?
Okay.
Okay. I will take up your questions. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, where are we now? It's all about coding the HTML. It's all about coding the HTML. How you want to display image. So you have to write a corresponding tag for that. You want to display a banner. You have to write a corresponding tag for that. Okay. So if you want to see something, you should write some code behind it. You should write some code behind it in a format of tags. Okay. And for the tag, let's say if you want to create a image tag, you have to, if you want to display image, you have to create a image tag inside your code, and you have to refer an image so that it can be displayed here. Okay. So what you need to understand here is that why you are learning all this stuff. Why we are learning all this stuff. When I'm learning on Selenium, so what is the need for me to learn about HTML? What is the need for me to know about web page and know about its tags? Okay, the need is that, let's see your Selenium IDE now. Let's understand this row. So you are typing 1000. Where you typed? You said a command is type and whose value is 1000. You are going to type 1000. Where you are going to type it? That's important, right? So there are multiple text fields are there where you are going to type it. And you also said that I wanted to type it on name equal to param home value. Name equal to param home value. Okay, it means that, so it wanted to type a value 1000 at the location of, at the element param home value. Okay, if you want to work with any of the web element, we know, right? So everything we see on a web page is a web element. If you want to work with a web element, you should know the element information. You should tell the Selenium IDE that, okay, so I wanted to type 1000 on this element. I wanted to type the some 200 on this element. I want to select December at this element. Okay, will you able to select December at this element? No, it's not possible. You have to select December or some month here only. Okay, you have to tell the Selenium, so I want to select or I want to type something on this particular element. So to identify that element, we have to use some of the locators of an element. Okay, so in the entire Selenium or in the entire automation, there are two things which you require to remember. One is that to work with an element,
No.
to work with an element, first thing, identify the element and perform operation on that element. These are the two things you require to know about for any automation. It's not about the Selenium. It's not about any other automation tool. So if you want to work with some automation tool, you have to understand these two concepts very well. Okay. Let's say, for example, if you want to identify me, how can you identify me? Let's say you want to identify me. So in that case, you can call by me with my name. Okay. Or you can call by me with my certain other properties saying, you can call by me Selenium trainer, or you can call by me one of the automation tester, or one of the automation trainer in the Ambition Academy. Okay. So to identify something, you are using its properties. Either it's a name. Let's say consider me as an element. Okay. To identify me, you are using my name. You are using a name, or you are using certain other properties such as the work of a person. Okay, my work is to train the people. Okay, the trainer of Selenium, or one of the trainer in the Ambition Academy. So you're using certain properties of me, and you can able to identify me, right? In the same way, in a web application, if you want to identify an element, if you want to identify an element, you should know its properties. You should know its properties. You should know its element information. How can you able to know it? Okay, so that's one thing. And using its information, you can able to find out this element. Okay, so let's look into Selenium IDE. So I found I wanted to enter, I want to type 1000 at this element whose information is name equal to param home value. I wanted to type 200 and at a element id equal to loan amount. Okay, this element information is id equal to loan amount. So that's how Selenium IDE is found this element, and it is able to perform some operation on it. Okay, so you might have a question that where can I get this name of the element, where can I get this id of the element? Okay, where can I get it? So there is one way that you just do the right click and click on the view page source. And let's say you wanted to find out the text field of home value. Just type control F, home value. So I wanted to find out a text field. Okay, right now I got a label. Just beside below that you can see input type equal to text, name equal to param home value, name equal to param home value. Okay, so this is the information I gave to Selenium IDE. So it's not I gave that, it has found it while recording, right? Name equal to param home value. Let's say if you want to identify a loan amount. Okay, let's say you want to perform, you want to enter 10 in the interest rate. For example, you want to perform 10 in the interest rate. You want to enter 10 in the interest rate. So I know I have to type. I know the command that is a type, and I know the value that I want to enter, that is 10. But where should I enter? What is the element information that I can use so that Selenium IDE can able to find it out and it can able to perform the type operation. So for that, let's look into the page source where we kept it. Okay, so it's a interest rate, right? Let's type interest rate. Okay, this is the label, and below that you can see a text field and whose ID is interest rate. Okay, and whose name is also param interest rate. So what we call this ID and name? We call this ID and name are attributes. Okay, and using one of these attribute we can able to find out the element. So if you are having an ID, it's better to go with the ID. You can also see here that the type ID equal to interest rate 5. Okay, so that's how we identify the elements. But every time you want to identify the element, opening the view page source and trying to find out that element is little bit difficult for you. Okay, so for that there is another concept called Firebug. Okay, I'll explain about that, using which you can able to find out the elements very easily, very quickly. Okay, so I hope you understood this table first. Okay, what we are doing, we are first we are opening the first we are opening a mortgage calculator, some web application, and once we open, we are typing name equal to, we are typing 1000 at the element param home value element, and we are typing 200 in the loan amount. We are typing 5 in the interest rate. How can I able to identify the interest rate field? By using its ID. Okay, I'm typing 12 in the loan term. How can I able to identify the loan term text field? By using, how can I able to identify the loan term text field? By using its one of locator. Okay, so one of the locator is ID. Okay, so that's how we are able to identify the element, and we are able to perform some operation on the element. So going forward, we are going to talk about, you know, the easiest way to identify the element information by using the Firebug, and automating a couple of test cases, and working with Selenium IDE features.